If Big Boss is the man who sold the world and Sam the man who delivers, then Hideo Kojima is definitely the man who predicted the future, and not only once, but twice. But since he inherited this title of visionary, he's actually avoiding doing it again. In this video, you understand how Kojima predicted the future we're living now, back then in 2002, and how he predicted the subsequent year, the pandemic, when he launched Death Stranding in 2019, and how a near-death experience during the pandemic could be the reason for his change of mind to focus on humans instead of the future, and how this can actually make his games even better. Games such as OD, featuring meta-human faces, can showcase his new human-like approach. You're a fan of Kojima like me? Then stick with me. I'm Ricouts, my favorite franchise is Metal Gear Solid, and Death Stranding is awesome. And even though I don't worship Kojima for the games he created, I like to understand how his mind works behind the masterpieces I played. Be warned that this video contains major spoilers for Metal Gear Solid 2, and a few spoilers for Death Stranding 1, and even fewer for Death Stranding 2. First of all, I'm not saying Kojima makes games for the sole purpose of predicting the future, or that he's always right in his predictions, because if you consider Metal Gear Solid 4 a prediction about VR gaming training people for war, well, that would be a lame one. Don't play Kojima games because of this genius aura surrounding him. Play them because you want to play them. Kojima wasn't the sole writer for Metal Gear Solid and isn't for Death Stranding. Everyone at Kojima Productions worked really hard to make scenes like this to be real in Death Stranding 2. That being said, he's pretty good at making predictions. By the end of MGS2, we discover a big twist that you probably already know about. Raiden was being influenced and manipulated throughout the whole game to be played like a chess piece in a big game by a secret organization that controls everything, called the Patriots. And when I say everything, I really mean it. Raiden discovers that not only was his mission during the whole game a big plan of the Patriots, but also his wife was too. He, who had a dark past, was played by them to fall in love with her. They produced her to make her pleasant for him. Her voice, her manner, her hair, and even their first date were nothing but a big chess game played by the Patriots. Oh sure, but I'm not Raiden. Definitely my anime waifu loves me with all her heart. I'm not controlled by anyone. I am a self-made man. That's wrong! You're controlled. Even your tastes are controlled. In Metal Gear Solid 2, not to say in our universe of course, people's opinions, votes, tastes, and even sexual desires are not only influenced by a major force, but actually desired by this force to happen. An example, remember when everyone hated emojis in 2017? I know some still do, but still, people hate it because it was too normie and too cringe, and they didn't want to be cringe. Then a bunch of kids that were not cringe banded together with a group of not cringe kids to shame on the cringe kids who didn't even think of anything further than to be like the TikTok guys and gals they watch it. This was a creation of a thesis and antithesis. In the world of Metal Gear Solid, definitely not our own world, this moment would be something manipulated by the Patriots, who wanted to establish their will using pawns to do so. What I'm trying to say here is that this game showed us that through media using overloaded information in a post-truth era, where morality is relative and not established by an actual inherited good major force for people to follow, people tend to do their own thing and make their own way, like the media says. I literally saw a thing like this written on a shirt in a store a few years ago. By being the rebel against something, trying to fight against something they consider a moral or even physical enemy, they would actually be cooperating with this enemy without their knowledge. Just like Raiden was, you may be in the same situation right now. An analysis I make of our own world right now is the overflow of digital content in an algorithm-based world. In a society that values appearance and pleasure more than established values, it wouldn't be a surprise to have our desires influenced by it too. And I'm not talking about the likes in social media makes you crazy thing. I'm talking about flash-to-flash content. The thing that brought you and me into this world. Black people were discriminated against throughout our history. We know it. They were sometimes seen as ugly versions of humans, if people even consider them as humans. During the pandemic, because of the overflow of digital content, I saw the same type of posts on social media at least 15 times a month. Look, this black model is actually the hottest person ever. And then things started to change because somehow the people that before were being excluded now were on a podium receiving attention. But this is actually a good thing? I don't think so. Let me explain why. Similar to this event, we had a bump in consumption of adult content that you shouldn't watch, even if someone put a gun to your head and screaming at you. We had a racial fetish propagation of black males and Asian girls. These sexual desires, in the blink of an eye, were being influenced again by media propagation throughout digital content. Everything is controlled, influenced, and marketed by the media. People are putting their trust in relationship coaches and giving up their solid relationships because they didn't match their liquid and fragile connections. This type of behavior is intrinsic to humans. Some people are just idiots to trade their precious relationships for some insignificant action. Even before the internet, even before these worldwide connections in 2020, people had over expectations of their partners. Instead of being better persons for someone, they would rather wait for this ideal, utopic person in physical and in every sense that will never come. This rotten connection. The question is this desire ours or influenced by the media? Well, both. But now it is yours to handle. And another question, should we go on with our desires? If you want something solid in your life, rather than dating a supermodel who doesn't care about you, or being rich but being consumed by consumerism, then no, definitely no. But Kojima didn't only show the problem, he tried to convey a way to deal with it in a world where you don't have control of everything. At the end of the game, Raiden decided to stay with Rose, his wife. Even though she wasn't the real Rose, she was the one he fell in love with. And he was ready to see the real girl behind all that mask. Because in the end, if you think too hard about everything, you're going to end up losing your mind and your life. And the better way to treat your life than this is just to live your life and enjoy the things you have with the best people you can. Rating connections. It's a similar conclusion that the movie Free Guy gave. Seriously, this movie is underrated. So, living my life is the final call? Nah, I think there's an empty spot inside of ourselves that only God can fulfill. But still, it is a better deal than to stress yourself over nothing. When you can't see someone as a person, but rather as a fetish, a trophy, or just a puppet in your hands, we have a real problem. Instead, we should see the people for who they are. That's why the description of this channel is video game can connect us despite our differences. Because even though we are different, we are equal to, in value and in worth. And cooperating with each other is what led us here, because without it, you wouldn't be able to even watch this video to begin with. Connections, right? The next game is all about it. Hey, wait! You don't know a Death Stranding 2 copy? Man, you're missing the best game of the year. It may even be the best game of the PS5 generation. If you want one, click on my direct link to Amazon in the description. If you want to spend less and smile more, check out my store, where I put the best offers and new games I found on Amazon, especially for you, such as Ghost of Yotei, which is the newest PlayStation exclusive. Not only that, but I already put Death Stranding 2 for only $50. You would save $20 on this offer. I'll keep track and update with new offers every day to help you. By buying it, you support my channel that isn't monetized. Oh, and don't forget to leave a like. It helps a lot. Death Stranding is all about connections. It always has been. And here we are in the hands of the man who understands, based on his countryman's Bacchus, the necessity of porters and of deliveries. Bacca were mountain porters known for their strength, endurance, and skill in carrying extremely heavy loads up dangerous trails. They played a crucial role in sustaining life and tourism in Japan's high mountains. Even today, people still need the Baccas because of the mountain areas that are difficult to reach without them. With all these concepts, Death Stranding launched. Some people like it, some people hated it, and some people didn't care at all. I was there. I saw this movement and observed the waves changes too. When the pandemic occurred and the lockdown made people look into the game with more respect, because the games they were playing and the streaming they were watching were all to create connection with people, or better, a bridge to people. They started to understand that more than the necessity of products, they respected the people who were delivering to them and saw that the crazy game that launched almost a year before was actually trying to open their eyes for times like this. Times where some people wanted to form bonds and others wanted to destroy them. By utilizing their preppers, who were people that lived inside bunkers, only taking care of what they wanted without sharing anything in return. To make an analogy to real life, Kojima showed us how comfortable isolation can be, but how terrifying it can be too. We had a boon of mental diseases after this period. Sure, we have good things too. People started dating with each other and even marrying during the pandemic because of the internet. But still, isolation leads to craziness and an urge for connection, meaning and purpose. after making this game and nailing the message into the heart of players, he decided to build the script skeleton of Death Stranding 2. But after the pandemic, something changed his mind. He understood that the prototype script for Death Stranding 2 was sounding once more like a prediction for the future. And after everything that happened worldwide, this wouldn't satisfy the needs of his ideas as a writer. He wrote a game about connection above the predicament thing, so connection was the thing to aim for. Because of this, he decided to scrap the script to write a new one with the same characters. But now, instead of a certainty, he had a question that would be the starting point to build a new step in his career. Should we have connected? This is much more than a cool sentence to describe the Death Stranding 2 theme. It has some reasons for why he came up with this idea that won't stop in DS2, but will continue to go on with his projects. Humans, after everything that happened, the help we got and the help we didn't have during this difficult time, have a real, strong, everlasting connection, or rather a shallow, egoistic relationship. Kojima had a full outline and story for Death Stranding 2 before COVID-19 hit, but once the pandemic happened, he felt that the world had changed too much for his original plan to still make sense. He said he just rewrote the whole story from scratch, and the reason, the title of this video, is the answer. He didn't want to predict the future once more, meaning that his earlier plans risked becoming outdated or disconnected from reality, making it less resonant with an audience that had gone through isolation, trauma, and change. He wanted the narrative to connect with what people had endured. In the original Death Stranding, a core theme was connection, rebuilding links between people, but during the pandemic, many connections became mediated by screens, working remotely, social media, video calls, and Kojima felt that those pseudo-connections were inadequate to satisfy human needs because digital connections alone can't fulfill what real human connection provides. In Death Stranding 2, the meaning of strand evolves. The narrative questions whether all connections are good or whether some connections may have a cost. That's why the phrase for the game is, "Should we have connected?" which hints at this more ambivalent view. It seemed like, yes, we're all connected, but it's not really the connection that I imagined. I have a personal vision about what changed his mind. Keep in mind that this is just my speculation after studying his interviews. I was seriously ill during the pandemic and could not create anything. Until then, I never thought about death. I didn't feel old, but during the pandemic, I saw people dying and got sick myself. I started thinking, how much time do I really have to create? Maybe I only have 10 years left. What can I still do in that time? What would leave a mark? The prediction of 5, 10, even 20 years ahead, or the emotional attachment? What makes you remember more about Death Stranding? The epic boss battles, the astonishing graphics, or the moment when you climb a mountain and music starts to play to create a unique atmosphere? Personal and introspective moments can leave deep and meaningful memories inside each one of us, like a smile you see from a loved one. Simple but personal. We can already see some of these changes in Death Stranding 2, in the preppers talk, and how they're more human and connective, and in this story too. I haven't finished the game yet, but definitely have a more personal feeling surrounding it. I'm intrigued by this new phase of Kojima. The metahuman technology that will be used in OD isn't only for realistic graphics, but also to tell stories. This whole video was about humanity. My whole analysis was about this. This shows us that even if Kojima doesn't want to predict the future again, he may do it. As Kojima himself once said in interviews, "I don't predict the future, I just see the present very clearly." You want to see what humanity will do in the future? Just look at us in the present and not our past, our total deprivation, our beautifulness, our love, our way of telling stories, and the stories that connect us and that we share with each other. Funny ones, weird ones, and magnificent ones too. If it's to connect that we were brought into this world, then I'm fine with it. Like the video? That's awesome. Don't forget to subscribe and leave it a like because it will help me a lot. Don't forget to check on my Amazon links too, my store if you want. You have a lot of ways to pay less and play more. If you want to interact with me, just put your comment below. I'm gonna love to read it. I hope I'll see you next time. Thanks, and God bless you all.